Hello and welcome back to I Have No Idea What I'm Doing. This episode is all about continuous integration and continuous deployment, which means we are actually deploying Cards Against Humanity today, and you can play about with it on the internet like a normal web app. Enough messing about, let's just get straight into it. Okay, so we spent a lot of the recent episodes making sure that we could get this game being a little bit more multiplayer and letting you play on different devices all at the same time. Now, all of that is fairly useless if it's not actually on the internet and you can't play at the same time. If I was inviting everybody around my house, we could play on a local network, but we might as well just play the card game at that point. So let's move away from the code a little bit today, and we'll look at GitLab and what GitLab can do for us. So the reason I originally chose GitLab is simply because I needed somewhere to store my repos, and GitLab was what I used for other things, so it was a fairly obvious choice. It does pretty much everything you would expect something that handles repos to do. So you've got the repo itself with all the files and all the commits that go with it. We've got the README here. We've got all the files that we've done. We've got every commit that's happened. We've got a list of all the commits over here. And one thing that I do use this fairly heavily for is if we go over to branches, you'll see I've got episode 2 through 12 and soon to be 13 after this airs, where you can go to any of them particular branches and say, like, this is where the code was at this point in time, so you can follow along and check back and see how we've progressed episode by episode. I also use tags for this, although some of them got lost when I'd switched laptops, so you can see 9 through 12 is missing. It's a repository store, I guess. It's somewhere where we can go to look at the repository. Much like GitHub, we can create issues around these things, and we have merge requests, which is what GitHub calls pull requests. So if anyone wants to contribute, they can create a merge request, and I can review that merge request and then look into all the changes and things and say, okay, does this need changes, or do we need to, can it just be merged straight into the repo? But one other great thing that GitLab does is this CI/CD. Now, CI/CD, you can see we've got nothing set up here, but that stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment. Continuous integration is things like running tests or checking linters or all sorts of things. And continuous deployment actually lets us deploy our site continuously. So if we push to the master branch, for example, we can trigger a build job that then deploys our site every time the master branch is pushed to. And we can say with the CI, provided all the tests pass and what have you, then we can push to the to production. And you'll see as we go along, it can do basically anything you want to. I was reading an article today about one of my colleagues, Brendan, who has actually set up CI/CD in GitLab to cook his breakfast for him. I'll put a link to the post for that below. We can start with the simplest thing that CI/CD does, and the thing it's most often used for, and that is running our tests. Now, we can't actually just do this straight away for two reasons. The first one being, if I just run yarn test, that I've been a little bit lax with the tests, and they fail. That's my bad. They should pass, so I'm just going to really quickly fix them. Okay, so I fixed these tests in the easiest and worst possible way ever. I have commented them out and left a to-do to uncomment them. Don't ever do this in anything you're working on. I'm simply doing it now because I want to push something else out really quickly, and I don't really want to be dealing with the tests right now. Please please, I can't stress this enough, don't do this if you're working on projects with people. It's not a good idea. So now that our tests are passing, there's one other thing we need to do. So we just ran yarn test here to get this, and the problem is, as you'll see, we're not actually finishing the job. So if we were to run CI/CD, it would run these tests and then it would hang waiting for changes, which are never going to happen. So we need to run the tests. If I go into package.json and get rid of that, we need to run the tests without the watch. So we can do like this, test, call it test CI, and then get rid of that watch thing. And now we can just do yarn test CI, I believe, and it should go through. There we go, and that's what we want. We want that done when they pass successfully, and if they fail, then this is, it generates a failure. So we've got that. There's an easier way to do this now. I think we can just do test CI watch like that, and then yarn test CI. Oh, yarn test CI. Yeah, there we go. So it saves us writing everything out twice, and if anything changes, we don't need to change it in two places. Now I'm just saying run this test CI command, but also watch for the output. And you see we've got our default behavior back for yarn test. So good. That was nice and quick and simple. I don't want to be on the master branch. I want to check out a new branch. And for episode 14, we're to episode 14 already. Okay. There's going to be a lot of pushing to GitLab on this one, because in order to run the CI, we need to push our branch up. Okay, so that's pushed up now. We want to start creating the pipeline. If we go across to GitLab, we'll see we've got nothing set up in pipelines. And that is because we don't have .gitlab ci.yaml. This is the file that tells GitLab this is what I want to do. Basically, this says I want to run through this test. I want to deploy it here, blah, 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 blah. Now, the easiest way really is to get a pre-existing one and just modify what's in there. So if we look inside this README, there's all sorts of bits that help you out. But I've already got one that's fairly similar, so I'm just going to copy it across. Yes. Where is it? GitLab ci.yaml. There we go. Right. So what this does is it says using Docker, I want to use this node image, and then I want to cache my node modules. I want to run yarn install. I want to run yarn build, and then this bit we will worry about later. I'm just going to comment it out because we don't need it right now. That's for the deployment stuff, and only run this when we push to master. Okay, so ours is going to be similar, but we don't want to run build. We want to test. And now, in theory, if I'll just check. Yep. So if I add that file and then commit it, and GitLab CI file. Now, when we push that up, what it should do, it should go up to GitLab. GitLab should see that it's there and it's not running. Right, okay. So it's not running because I have said only run when we push to master. And we are not pushing to master, we are pushing to episode 14. I am going to say also run on episode 14 branch. So we committed that, and now if we push that up, it should, in theory, because we pushed to the episode 14 branch, it should pick that up and it should run these things for us. And there we go, it is. So we've only got one stage so far, and that's test. And if we look at this, we can see we've got our one stage here. And we can even look in and see exactly what it's doing. So currently it's pulling in that node image that we told it to pull in from Docker. And then once it's done that, it should run our install and our test. I'm just going to fast forward through this. I'll leave it running while I go make a cup of tea. Okay, I've just got back. I got myself a tea and a biscuit. And I have realised I've made a bit of an error. So you remember right at the beginning, I said that we needed to change our test slightly so that it didn't hang and wait. We created a separate thing for CI tests and then didn't use it, which was really smart. So I guess this is a good way of showing you what would have happened if we'd done it wrong, which we did do it wrong. So it is what is happening. You can see we're running the tests and then it timed out, and then we ran them again, and then it timed out. And then we run them again, and that's because we're trying to watch the tests for changes, and we're not actually exiting the process. So what this want to do here is we want to change yarn test to yarn test CI. Okay, so I went away for a bit there, and we've gone back and we can see that our tests are passing, and that's great. So it's no longer hanging. We've got our we can, it's not too long, so we can have a look up and we can see we use Docker to install Node, and then we clone the repository onto this machine, does some bits here, runs yarn install, and then runs yarn test CI. When it runs through all our tests, and they pass, so this job has passed. Happy days. If we jump out into the pipeline though, we'll see we've got our cancelled one here that I cancelled because it was just going to keep running for well, not forever, but for a very long time. I just thought it's easier to cancel it. But we're actually failing because the deploy has failed. Now, GitLab is automatically trying to deploy to pages, but it says here we're missing pages artifacts. Now, if you remember before, we had here artifacts, paths, public. Now this is, we commented it out because it wasn't doing anything, but if we comment it back in, this just says, I want my GitLab pages build to be inside this public directory. Now what we also need to do is add in our build script here, which is just yarn build, and I don't think yarn build currently does anything. Let's find out. It fails, so it's trying to do something. Let's see. Build webpack-p. Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to remove build directory. I'm just going to make that webpack, and if we look in webpack config, we are building up to build. I just want to change that to public. Now in theory, when we run yarn build, we should have public. There we go. So we've got our bundle.js inside our public folder, which is good. We are missing index.html though. Now we could mess about with Webpack and include the index.html and do all crazy lovely stuff that Webpack does for us. But since this is just a learning thing, I'm not going to mess on with it. I'm just going to run Webpack and copy index.html into public. It's probably not the best way to do this, but it's the simplest, it's the easiest, and it's the most boring way. So let's just do that. Now in theory, when we run yarn build, it should copy the index, the bundle.js, sorry, and index.html. Okay, so if I open public index.html, you see my camera trickery. I don't want that. Oh, we have an issue. What's our issue? File not found. Why is it not found? Where is it? Oh, let's have a look in index.html. Yeah, okay, so I'm looking into /bundle.js, which is trying to look in my root directory. I'm just gonna do that and rerun yarn build, and we should be looking in the right place now. There we go. Right, so we've got card screen, saves us logging in. Change me in the URL bar. Yeah, so our app is working. We've got our root in. Our test screen's not working right now because auth is not supported in this environment, because I'm not running a server locally. I'm just running the file directly, so the Firebase stuff doesn't work. But when we push this up, it should. So what GitLab CI will do, it will run our install as before, it will run our test as before, it will run our build, which is new, and then it will tell GitLab pages that everything in the public directory is what we want to serve to GitLab pages. So let's just add that. Okay, let's push that up, and now as before it should trigger our pipeline. Let's refresh this page. There we go. So our new pipeline is running, and it should, again, if we watch this, it should be a bit quicker, this one, because we've cached the node modules, but it will pull in that node image again. And there we are, it's cloning the repository, doing some things. Oh, it's extracted the cache, there we go, so that's our node modules cache. And install should be a lot quicker now because we've got the cached stuff. There we go. There's our tests passing, and now we're running build, creating a new cache, and the job has succeeded. Oh, whoop, whoop, whoop. And the pipeline has succeeded, we can see down there. But if we come back into jobs, we will see, not jobs, sorry, pipelines. We will see 2 ticks. It's test. Our test has passed, and our deploy has passed. And if we go into the settings for pages, we should now see our pages are served under here. So fingers crossed. Hey, there we go. So now frontend.gitlab.io/devsagainsthumanity gives us our app. I wonder, I've gone on twitter.com, I don't know how I've done that. If we try and log in, will it let us? It won't let us. So we need to change something in Firebase to let us do that. Unauthorized domain. Let me quickly change that and I'll come back. If you want to make this change for yourself, head on over to Firebase, click on authentication, go to the sign in method tab, and then under authorized domains, if you hit add domain, you can see I've added frontend.gitlab.io. And now if we come across to here, we can log in as Frontend, and we have our cards. And if you want to test this yourself, you can log in yourself and play about with these. Although bear in mind the way we've structured this app, if you log in and leave some cards in your hand, when you log out, you take them with you. So there we are deployed. This is our URL. We can log in and we can play as to our heart's content, really. One other thing I want to quickly show you is I have made a merge request. So this is where the CI/CD, the CI part of the CI/CD really shines in GitLab. So I have asked to merge episode 14 into master, and because the tests are passing and the deploy is working, then it's fine. I can actually merge it. But if I make a change in here and where is my hand test? Let's uncomment out one of these tests that we know is failing. Push that up. Then we should see when we refresh, the pipeline is now running. So I can't merge it because it's a work in progress actually. I'll take that off for now. So yeah, I can merge when the pipeline succeeds. I can merge immediately if I really want to, but the point is I can't immediately or automatically whatever merge this in until it's finished running my pipeline. It's just a great way of making sure that your tests actually pass before you merge other people's code into your code base, and it's really nice, and the way it's all integrated it's wonderful. That's still running. I'll leave that running for a second and I'll show you what a failure looks like. Okay, so now we can see our tests have failed, this pipeline here. If we open it up, it says the test has failed. We can go through here and click through, and we see we get a big red merge button and an exclamation mark to say don't merge this because it's failing the tests. It is called pages here, and I have a feeling I have not properly done my CI file, so I'll take a look at that in a second. But if you click through to it, you'll see you get all the output. Here's a failing test, and this is where it failed, and this is exactly the same as what you would get in your console if you were to run it. So the hand component is failing because of this reason here. So I am going to comment that back out, and I'm going to separate this out into separate bits. So you can see everything here is running the pages thing, which is why it was named incorrectly, and we were running the test and the build and everything all in one sort of job. So I'm just going to split that up into a test and a pages, and the test script we want to run is yarn test CI. I want to cache the I want to cache the paths for both. Don't want to run test CI on that one. Pages does want build, and I also want for script to run yarn install. So that'll make sure it runs yarn install before the test and before the pages. Test, I actually want to run it on everything, and pages I only want it to run on master, but we're leaving episode 4 in there for now. Okay, so I pushed that up, and you can see we got pages and test running as separate jobs, but they're both running under the test heading. I didn't really want that, so what I've done, if I jump back over here, you see I've done added this here. So the stage for this is test, and the stage for this is deploy, and that's just this thing up here. So if I go back, you see this job up here. You see we have this test thing here, so that once the tests have passed, and only once they've passed, we move on to the deploy stage, and then we run the build for pages, and then the pages themselves actually deploy. And we can look into the individual jobs here and see this one just runs yarn build, and then the test just runs yarn test CI, and then that's it, job succeeded. If we come back into merge requests again, you'll see that our pipeline is passing, and now we have these two ticks like this. So we've got test is passing and deploy is passing with pages. So happy days. What I'm going to do now is just tidy up. This is something you should double check. That episode 14, what pages will actually do is any branches that you specify in here, whenever they're pushed to, it will deploy 2 pages. So every time I'm pushing to episode 14, it's deploying to pages. I don't want that. I only want it to actually trigger when I push to master. So let's just remove that episode 14 for now. We've committed that, we've pushed that, and we can see in our merge request, we're back to work in progress. And the pipeline is running again. Now, our commits are a bit messy, and they always are when you set up CI/CD, because you have to keep pushing up to the repo, which is fine. But I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean these up, and I will be back in a tick. Okay, so I have cleaned up them commits a little bit. The discussion looks a bit strange, but if we go into commits, we've got patching some failing tests, adding the CI file, pages conflict, and removing episode 4 from the deployment branches. Our pipeline is running again, and we can have a quick look at the changes. You can see we've added GitLab CI, we've commented out our tests, we've changed this bundle file, changed our things a little bit here. I have committed bundle.js. Didn't want to do that. I'm just going to add that to the git ignore. Okay, so I've done that now. I've added public to the git ignore and just removed them public files, so we can see all the files that we've actually want to add to the thing in our merge request. You can see our pipeline's running. It's set to a work in progress, so let's turn that off, and we can say merge when the pipeline succeeds, which is, I might as well do that actually. So let's see, once this pipeline has succeeded and we've run the tests, then our changes will be merged into master. So let's wait for that to happen and see if it deploys. There we go. We got our notification. Say our pipeline has passed and it merged. So in theory, if we jump back into CI/CD pipelines, there we go. We've now got a new pipeline running on master. Because our tests are passed, we've merged into master, and master says, okay, just to be sure, I'm going to run the tests again, and then I'm going to deploy. And that should run, and that should pass, and it should deploy. And that job has now passed, so we've got the test passing and the deployment passing on master. So if we go back to our thing and refresh it, we didn't make any changes, so it's going to look exactly the same. But we can go over our test screen. And we can't make any changes because we're not logged in. But if we log in as Frontend and E, we should see, once it's clicked in, there we go, there's our hand and there's the deck. So it's working, and you can go on this URL up here. I'll put it in the description below, and you can play about with this yourself. Just be aware that there's a good chance that there won't be any cards to play with when you go on it, because if I was to take, let's say I take all of the cards into Frontend's hand and then log out, there's no cards in the deck, and a logged out user or another user doesn't have permission to see Frontend's hand, which is annoying. So I'll keep an eye on the data, and I'll try and put cards into the hand as often as I can, but if you're playing about with this, please try not to hold on to all the cards in the hand. In the play area or the deck, it's absolutely fine, but there we go. So the deck's full now. You can have a play about. Okay, so this episode has been a little bit different to normal. I've even not used my real camera here. I've done some JavaScript to hook my webcam up and just record the screen, which makes it a little bit easier. But anyway, today's been all about getting to grips with GitLab, and that is simply because I want at this stage people to help me out with this and help build this. There's a lot of tests that need fixing. There's a lot of game that's missing, really. We've learned the basics of Vue and Vuex, and we've started to pull it all together, and now there's just lots of grunt work involved in turning this into like a proper game. With the continuous integration and continuous deployment that GitLab allows us to do, And this should be a lot easier to collaborate on. And it'd be really good if we could make this a proper community thing, and we can pull in all these different people's expertise and help and things into getting this into a proper working and fun game to play. As a little bonus to anybody who has stayed till the end, I'm trying to get to the right side of this here, I have set up a little job over here that just sends a curl request to a webhook that should turn this light behind me on once everything is built out. Getting the timing right is going to be pretty tricky here, so bear with me. So you can see it's running, it's installing everything as it needs to. And once the tests have passed, this light on behind me will light up, and I'm going to edit this a little bit so I don't look as awkward as I clearly am right now. Hey! Utterly useless, but a lot of fun. I'm going to remove that though, because otherwise anytime anybody runs out of pipeline, I'm going to start turning my lights on.